want to make the world better. Just better. Okay, and whatever my measure of better is, or yours, is what might be valued by society. But the other thing is this wonderful opportunity to create a little bit of prosperity. Because what prosperity offers you is independence.
Well, it's all about helping the poorest. And one thing they don't have access to is bank accounts. The fee structure, if you have small amounts of money, is just too high.
I think there's going to be a lot of disruption, a lot of revolution with respect to blockchain-based technologies. And what that's going to drive is not necessarily banks worrying about other banks being competitors. What banks worry about is the bank of one. You know, the next generation of a banking network that's resident on a phone, that's decentralized, that's distributed, and is based on a digital token, a digital asset that's not necessarily issued by a bank or a government or anybody else.
For me, part of the fascination is that we don't yet know exactly what this thing is, and yet there was still lots of people gathering around it.
Thanks to the power of modern communication, we have the ability to create technologies that are decentralized, removing middlemen and allowing users to interact with each other directly through a global network. Decentralized applications have been becoming more and more important in the past 10 years, and have the benefits of massively reducing costs and barriers to entry, removing single points of failure, preventing censorship, and ensuring transparency and trust.
There are new ways of solving problems, new approaches, and it's very exciting to be in this world.
It feels really exciting to be involved in blockchain. Feels like we're at the forefront of something that has at least the potential to transform our interactions between each other.
A file sharing network developed in the early 2000s is arguably the first decentralized application to have been created. BitTorrent allows anyone to share any kind of file with anyone else in the world, allowing people to distribute content quickly and easily, even if they do not have the resources to pay for their own website or server.
Nearly every person living in poverty on Earth will have access to a smartphone and be connected to a network. That is game-changing in and of itself. When you have digital wallets on these phones and you have the ability to trade assets, we're going to answer that question, what happens when everybody has money? Because capitalism itself has thrived in some areas by the natural exclusion of others from markets. It actually uses that scarcity principle as its driving basis. So what happens when money is not scarce?
How will the internet work in the future? It will use Ethereum. Ethereum is a planetary scale computer powered by blockchain technology. Applications built on Ethereum run exactly as programmed, without any possibility of downtime, censorship, or third-party interference. Ethereum is the secure backbone for everything from e-commerce to the Internet of Things, enabling transparent governance for communities and businesses while keeping user communication secure. Mix, the Ethereum IDE, makes it easy to develop, debug, and deploy your applications, while building UIs is done using your existing web development skills, tools, and favorite frameworks. Ethereum handles user authentication and secure payments for you, as well as messaging and even decentralized storage. And there's no need to sign up or pay for servers to host your applications, as Ethereum is the world's first zero infrastructure platform, allowing your users to regain control over the management of their own funds and personal data. Join the many already developing on Ethereum.
It is forcing us to think a little bit different, but if we do it smarter, we actually give also the next generation a great new opportunity to actually reinvent why they get up every morning and why they go to work, and make sure they really make best use of the degree they studied for and the things they really want to do in life.
Satoshi Nakamoto came up with the idea of a blockchain, a sort of distributed database, and used it to build Bitcoin, the world's first decentralized currency. Decentralized currencies like Bitcoin allow people to send money instantly anywhere around the world with no regard for national borders, with negligible fees. Bitcoin is increasingly being used for international remittances, micropayments, and commerce online. Decentralized applications for finance, cloud computing, messaging, and distributed governance are soon to come.
The idea is out, and if it's not being realized here, it may be realized there, or even in the internet, uncontrollable. So Bitcoin is here. Bitcoin is here to stay, and it will become bigger and bigger, as the blockchain, of course, as cryptocurrencies, as the possibilities which are connected to the blockchain and cryptocurrencies. That's out of the box, and the whole system does not need any government. It exists, it works. It's like a computer network surrounding the world.
We've looked at Bitcoin, we've had smart people come in and explain to us how the blockchain works, but I still just really don't understand what it means for my business.
Ethereum can be used to build financial applications that are fully trustworthy and transparent because they run on the blockchain. Online, cryptographically secure systems for managing your property and contracts. Social networking and messaging systems that allow users to maintain control of their own data. Systems for trading underutilized computational resources like CPU time and hard drive space. And eventually tools for online voting and distributed governance. And the most exciting applications of Ethereum are probably the ones that we have not even thought of.
There really is only one strategy, and that is to embrace the technology and to learn about it and to understand as far as possible, what kind of impact it has on your job and your goal.
I think the key skills that people need are the skills to work with machines. I don't think everyone needs to become a coder. In fact, if artificial intelligence is any good, machines will be better at writing code than humans are.
I do think this technology will lift a lot of people out of poverty, but will also be an inclusive technology that allows more people to engage in global commerce. 74% of the world's population, according to the World Bank, does not have access to basic financial services. In my home country, in the United States of America, which is one of the most wealthiest countries in the world, about 50% of the population does not have access to basic financial services, including bank accounts. There's a huge amount of people around the world that don't get to experience and be a part of the global economy because they don't have access to the financial system for a variety of reasons.
As with all new platforms for innovation, like the protocols that underlie the internet itself, it is not always easy to predict what they're going to be used for. Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the modern internet as a whole are all a result of early developments in the World Wide Web and JavaScript, the programming language of the World Wide Web, from the 1990s. Similarly, by providing a universal programmable blockchain and packaging it up into a client that anyone can use, the Ethereum project hopes to do the same for finance, peer-to-peer commerce, distributed governance, and human collaboration as a whole.
That's going to be common sense. People are going to have help and lots of innovative products competing on top of this digital currency platform.
As the blockchain became more influential in our thinking, we began to realize that it was a profound shift in how the internet could be used to create new forms of value.
I just also think we're leaving a section of the population behind, and some people in our country can't afford a computer or the internet or a home to live in.
One of the most amazing things in science that happened in the last 100 years, that this thing is actually possible.
And that means potentially that you could transform the structure of financial services.
But we're about to put 10 billion, trillion, gazillion things on the internet.
We can have a trust relationship without really having ever met each other.
Otherwise, you always need your IT guy sitting next to you, helping you in the understanding of the problem.
This is not something that's going to impact one or two industries. It's going to affect every industry in the same way that the internal combustion engine affected almost every industry, the same way the internet affected almost every industry, the way the steam engine created new industries. So this is one of those big generational technology shifts that will require a concerted and focused response. Otherwise, you'll miss the boat.
I think that's fundamental, one of the fundamental things. Security is another. Blockchains are military-grade cryptology, and they've never been cracked. It isn't, when you hear about hackers, stealing Bitcoin or whatever, they're not stealing from the blockchain itself. They are stealing at the point of entry, at the wallet level or at the browser level, and they intercept those messages. But the blockchain itself is very secure.
We see a lot of examples of banks and consulting companies and other Big Four audit firms talking about how they can strip cost out of the business of, trading in public markets or, whatever it might be. But if you take the example of public markets, how can you cut cost out of a market that doesn't exist in the future? What if the trading of securities happens peer-to-peer in the marketplace that doesn't have the traditional intermediaries of exchanges and brokers and agents and escrow agents and clearinghouses and all these other parties that we rely on?
Financial services will be just software, and the smart contracts technology in particular is going to automate a lot of the things that institutions and people handle today.
Is to understand that the cost efficiencies of embracing this new technology will potentially widen their accessible markets at a cost that's reasonable. And that in itself will create prosperity in different areas.
And certainly this movement, this blockchain movement, is the technology underpinning, the technology part of that mindset which exists offline as well.
I feel like this is a generational opportunity for entrepreneurs and investors. And I quite frankly have not seen something as exciting in my entire investment career.
Let's try to build a new system that has better trade-offs, that has better features, that has less downsides, and let's make it work.
This invention, when it came up in the 70s, this is really one of the totally groundbreaking ideas, right? It will change society for sure in many domains. It already has changed society in the sense that the internet is in some sense a secure place that you can make transactions on the internet.
The potential for creating trust, or even permissionless trust, within the internet, that's something that we haven't had before. And so its impact on society, on business, on government, could be profound.
We're at a crossroads here. We have the wherewithal now to create technology that would actually help the entire human race. The question is, will we do it?
It absolutely feels like a whole new paradigm for changing the world.
There's so much innovation that blockchain technology has spurred all throughout the world, and I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that this technology is going to affect everybody.
And by the way, that's the trick, I think, for large corporations, is to understand that the cost efficiencies of embracing this new technology will potentially widen their accessible markets at a cost that's reasonable. And that in itself will create prosperity in different areas. Something that I think we should think about.
There's lots of AI already in our lives. You can already see it on your smartphone. Every time you use Siri, every time you ask Alexa a question, every time you actually use your satellite navigation, you're using one of these algorithms, you're using some AI that's recognizing your speech, answering questions, giving you search results, recommending books for you to buy on Amazon. They're the beginnings of AI everywhere in our lives. So the rate of learning is going to be exponential, something that we as humans are not used to seeing. We have to learn things painfully ourselves, and the computers are going to learn on a planet-wide scale, not on an individual level. There's been an explosion in AI now because of the convergence of four exponentials. The first exponential is Moore's law, the fact that every 2 years we have a doubling in computing performance. The second exponential is that every 2 years we'll have a doubling of the amount of data that we have, because these machine learning algorithms are very hungry for data. The third exponential is that, well, we've been working on AI for 50 years or so now, and our algorithms are starting to get better. And then the fourth exponential, which is over the last few years, we've had a doubling every 2 years of the amount of funding going into AI. We now have the compute power, we now have the data, we now have the algorithms, and we now have a lot of people working on the problems. Intelligence will just suddenly explode and take us to what's called the singularity, where machines now improve themselves almost without end.
The key thing is, what we teach our AI, that reflects back to us.
A lot of these discussions seem to be skirting around the issue that really is the core of it, is that the economic system is really the problem at play here. It's all about ownership of the AI and the robotics and the algorithms. If that ownership was shared and the wealth was shared, then we'd be able to share in that wealth.
The trend is going to be toward big companies like Amazon and Google. I don't really see a fragmentation, because whoever has the data has the power.